Hey guys, welcome to BP the Bible Perspective. This is Kory Yeshua and his daughter Royalty. And he did a video that went viral. And it caught the attention of Fox News. And I want to dissect that interview with Fox News. Now in the video, he says that he was teaching his daughter to have to not to judge people by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Now my question is CRT, because this is what he blames in the video, for threatening that teaching. In other words, he's saying that critical race theory is going to cause his daughter to always see according to race. But I asked the question, is CRT this little girl's problem? Now before we get into it, please like and share this video and subscribe to BP the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. Now as I said, this young man, his name is Kory Yeshua, and his daughter is named Royalty. She steals the show. The video was an excellent video, and then they were just touching to watch. And she steals the show. Of course, the premise is wrong, what he says about CRT. Now, before I show you the video, let me do a little setup here. There's been a lot of pushback recently on CRT, or critical race theory. Now, obviously, in this video, we're not going to do a deep dive into critical race theory. But there is an awful lot of pushbacks from conservative that's even spilled over into evangelical Christians or conservative Christians. And so when I think about that, I think, why is, what is the push, why such a pushback? Now, one of the things that you hear that they're saying about critical race theory is that this is demonic. It is one of the most dangerous and evil ideologies that's being forced upon our children. He's going to say not those words, but that's the premise of what he's saying in his video. But I have to go, first of all, let me just say this. Critical race theory, and that's not to say that I agree with all of the tenets. My challenge to anyone is, I have yet to see anyone who says where critical race theory is wrong. Meaning this, all of the points that they bring out, most of the time, by the way, people can't even define critical race theory and who actually is a critical race theorist. And one of the things that you find is that I never see them say, but America is not like this. Now hear that, in short, critical race theory is an academic. It was academics developed in the 70s to analyze how racism affects the law. Now that's the initial premise. Now, since then, other things have kind of been attached to it on the same kind of premise. Like I say, it's an academic. Now you have Christians who will say, excuse me, is CRT biblical? Should CRT be in the church? Let me just say this. No one ever claimed that critical race theory was ever biblical or Christian. For the record, I'm going to say critical race theory never should be in any church. But that's, to me, a great digress here. Let me get back to this young man and this adorable daughter. Now I want to, again, like I said, dissect the video. I'm going to show you the video, and then I'm going to dissect the interview and to kind of show you. But before I do, one other point I want to bring up. When people say that things like critical race theories, and you see this pushback, and they say it's dangerous, evil, demonic, I always got to ask why. In other words, is it actually those things? Let me give you a point. Look at this picture here. This is a collage of Jim Crow era pictures. Now, if you notice, Look at Martin Luther King. Why do I have him in there? Well, here is the thing. J. Edgar Hoover said that Martin Luther King was the most dangerous man in America. I want you to think about that. The most dangerous. More dangerous than Russian spies, American spies, the Ku Klux Klan, serial killers, mass killers. Martin Luther King was the most dangerous man. And if you look at some of the other pictures, they cover pretty much every kind of area of our life. Government, schools, church. You think about the one right there on the other corner with the black girl. She was on her way to school. Look at the mob. They said that race mixing, integration was the most dangerous thing, right? Look at that, race mixing. Look at the church. Jesus saves, right? Race mixing, evil, not of God. These are things that people said. So when you see that people are saying critical race theory is the most dangerous, you have to wonder, what is it that they're hiding? See, I find that when they say critical race theory is the worst, they're you know, let's ask the question, what's wrong with race mixing? Why is Martin Luther King the most dangerous man in America? Why was it so evil to integrate schools? See, and deep down, you see the seeds and the foundations of racism. Now, when people talk about critical race theory being the most evil or dangerous, understand it is the race that they're most upset. And by race, let's be clear, we're talking about the black race. That these analytic tools, this is what critical race theory is, that's being taught is, oh my God, dangerous. But no one had a problem with the impact of the daughters of the Confederacy. You know, that what they have been able to push in our culture, in our schools. There were some 1,800 Confederate statues right now in the nation. And think about what is being taught in schools. And so just let me give you an example. Do people know what the original, who started the Memorial Day holiday? The Memorial Day holiday? Who started that? The fact that this was started by black people, and you never knew that. People didn't even know about the Tulsa race riot. People living in Tulsa didn't know. See? So when we talk about danger, they never talk about that danger, the impact of that. This whole thing about CTR is just, as we would say, smoke and mirrors. But let me play the interview, and then again, I want to dissect this man's argument or lack thereof. Okay.
Daddy teaches you can be anything in this world that you want to be, right? Don't Daddy teach you that?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if you're black or white or any color.
Doesn't matter if you're black, white, brown, yellow, right?
Black.
And how we treat people is based on who they are and not what color they are.
And if they're nice and smart.
See, this is how children think right here. Critical race theory wants to end that. Not with my children. It's not gonna happen. My baby's gonna know that no matter what she wants to be in life, all she has to do is work hard and she can become that. But we need to stop CRT. Period. Point blank. Children do not see skin color, man. They love everybody.
That father and daughter.
All right. Now, this is funny because the video is actually longer. You know what? Let me do this. No, okay. The video is actually longer, but I liked how she looked at him like, what are you talking about when he says critical race theory? Now, again, you have to kind of understand the argument against critical race theory to sort of understand what he is referring to. Now, because if you listen to him, he's basically saying that critical race theory, excuse me, is going to teach her not to, to think she could do whatever, to accomplish whatever she wants. That critical race theory is going to teach her to kind of lock her into a thought of skin color. But let's go on, because I want to get to the interview.
Duo going viral for that powerful message pushing back against critical race theory, and they join us now. We have Kory Yeshua and his...
Now, first and foremost, let me just say this, because the video does not give any substance pushback on critical race theory, other than critical race theory is bad. So what's his message? But let's go on here.
6-year-old daughter, Royalty. Hey guys, it's so good to see you.
Hey everybody, how you guys doing?
Hello, hey Royalty. Hello. You are so precious. We're excited about this interview. So Kory, tell us about the video. What led you to that point? Why did you post it?
I just seen a lot of things that are going on in America right now. A lot of things going on in the world, and I see the agenda being pushed on our children.
Now, again, you kind of have to understand the argument of critical race theory. The biggest furor now is that critical race theory and then the 1619 projects are being taught in school. So when he says that, it's not clear why critical race theory is bad, other than he's just saying that it is bad.
They're trying to teach our children to look at each other not for who they are as a person, but for their skin color. And I just decided I wanted to get out there and show the world what I teach my daughter,
So let's stop. He says that they, and I'm assuming they, now you can't probably see that because of the the sign there, the scroll sign, but he says he's a proud conservative. Now that is right there, kind of locates where he's at. And so I would ask, who as a critical race theorist is saying that? And the statement thus far denies the reality of, you got to tell a whole lot of people, especially white people, about skin color because people still see it. It's not, in other words, it's not critical race theory that's kind of pushing. In other words, it's not all of a sudden that now we've been race free for all of these decades, and all of a sudden, since Obama, that's when they really kind of say it. But let's say even now in this generation, that all of a sudden now they're teaching this evil of critical race theory.
And the values I try to instill in her, and that's to see people for who they are, for the content of their character, not the color of their skin.
Typical conservative talking point that they don't mean. They're quoting, of course, a line from Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. And as always, they forget the first half of Dr. King's speech when he blasts America for the hypocrisy, for defaulting on their promise of freedom for all. And the part is that when they talk about that, as I said, when you talk, the daughters of the Confederation certainly see skin color. All right. I
know you're a Christian. You teach. You want to teach what the Bible teaches to your daughter. You and I, our faith lines up, and the way we parent seems to line up too. You seem like an amazing person and a great dad. What?
How does she know this? I mean, she's saying. Let me just. I'm pushing back on what she's saying right here, because she doesn't mean it. Here's what the problem is. And I have questions, because I don't know, because again, with this interview, of course, not designed to get in depth. Of course, you don't have time. His name is Kory Yeshua. And for those of you that don't know, Yeshua is the Hebrew name of Jesus. Why is his name Yeshua? Right? In other words, now Jesus or Jesus is a Spanish name, but that's not what's going on here. Yeshua is very specific. In other words, Yeshua, actually, if you translate it out correctly, Yeshua should have been, it's also translated as Joshua, which simply means salvation. So I would just have put a question at this point. Why is his name Yeshua? Okay? And so when she says our faiths line up, how? See, the only reason why he's on the show is because he's trashing critical race theory. That's it. And the video was powerful, as you see, the little cute girl. But that's the only reason why she's on there. So she's talking about faith.
Did you to that point? Did you grow up in the church?
A little bit. My mom would try to take us to church, every Sunday, but it didn't always work out that way. As I got older, I definitely ran away from the church. I ran away from God for a long time. I was in the music industry, and yeah, like I said, I was running, and then, I ended up finding my way back to Him. Mm-hmm. As the Bible says, we will, if it's instilled in us when we're young. So, yeah, I found my way back to God, and here I am.
Well, Royalty, your dad, I know you're so blessed to have him as a father. He's doing an amazing job with you. How does he tell you, what does he teach you about choosing the right people to hang out with when you're choosing your friends?
Their skin color, it doesn't matter what their skin color.
That's beautiful. What about your school? Are you learning these teachings in your school?
No.
You're just learning them at home?
Yeah.
Well, okay, she's cute in the video, and the reason why is because, again, it's a 6-year-old little girl. Okay, so she's saying things that she kind of even know the concepts of what she's saying. All right, let's go on.
Kory, why do you teach her why are you spreading this message to stop CRT, and have you talked to her school about it?
Well, they had played a video, and
now, pay attention to this.
In the world, in America, but they had played a video that kind of took me back, and it was about segregation. There was a water fountain in the video that said whites only. And after the video, my daughter had came to me and said, "Dad, why wasn't the white kid able to play with the black kid?" And before that, I hadn't discussed segregation with my daughter. I didn't think she was ready for heavy things like Jim Crow and things like that yet, so I had to speak to it with her after that, and we had a conversation, and yeah, that's actually what led up to coming out and speaking to her about things like that.
Are you
now? Okay, so here again, when I asked the question, what does CRT, is CRT this girl's problem? Now again, I would admit we're talking about just under a 7-minute segment here, which is not meant to get in depth. But it's not also explaining the tenets of critical race theory either. In other words, I'm going to try to understand, okay, so far, where does critical race theory come in? He just said the school showed a video or a picture about Jim Crow South. Now understand this, that's history. Jim Crow South, and you can Google it and these images will just flash all over your screen. Segregation, white drinking fountain, colored drinking fountain. Okay, so my question is, he doesn't want the school to teach that? Is he faulting the school for showing that video or picture? How is that bad to show it? See, that's, again, how is that bad to show it? What does that have to do with the color of her skin, the black friends, or whatever? In other words, so far, what is the problem?
Surprised by the reaction. You have so many more followers now, and a lot of people.
You're referring to the video.
Now you're on national television.
Yes, and I'm so overwhelmed. It's such a blessing. But the main thing that I want to get out there is I want little white kids to know that they are not oppressors. I want little black kids to know that they are not oppressed, and they.
Okay. Let me finish this thought out.
Anything that they want to do, anything they put their mind to, they can overcome any obstacle. Your skin color does not matter.
And
okay, so a lot of things to unpack with that. A few things anyway. He says his skin color doesn't matter. Okay, keep living. Okay, we'll come back to him in a moment though. So when he says, and this is an issue, one of the, again, without getting really deep into it, what he is alluding to is how critical race theory talks about oppressed groups and oppressors. Now, we're not going to get into a deep dive in that. But just with that statement, because he makes the statement here, he wants white kids to know they are not oppressors. And then he says he wants black kids to know they are not oppressed. So just with the statement and how he presents it, I would ask, who teaches that? Right? But let's kind of go back and say, because that's kind of you need more context to what that statement is saying. We're going to say this. It's true where it's true. So, for example, his little daughter, Royalty, is not oppressed. Not in the Jim Crow sense. Not in the when we was under racism. But you have to start there. He brought up, remember, according to him, what started this was the picture of the Jim Crow South. And under the Jim Crow South, white society was oppressing black society, were they not? White people, through laws, were oppressing black people. That was true. Now, another thing that's true even in the present, we go back just a few years to what was called stop and frisk, where you had police officers oppressing black and brown people. They would stop and frisk them for no reason, because they could. So when he says you're not going to be oppressed, if he was living, right, and I want to finish the video, but I'm going to show you, just looking at him right now as a young black man, right, and by the way, he lives in Riverside, California. He is definitely subject to being oppressed by the police. And if he's oppressed by the police, that makes the cops an oppressor, and then him oppressed. In other words, it's hard to kind of try to tackle this because we're not doing a deep dive in here. But just on that statement alone, we could see where the CRT comes in at. And that's what he's alluding to. If you have, for example, a school system that has been impacted by the Daughters of the Confederation, they are teaching history inaccurately in favor of the Confederacy, in favor of white people. So you have that. There's a lot of ways we can talk about the implicit bias, the subtle racism. As one professor said, it's not so much as overt, it's 1,000 cuts a day. So when he says that, for example, his little girl walks into, I'll give you another example. Remember just last summer when you had a Karen who saw an 8-year-old black girl and called the police on that black girl for selling lemonade. That could be his daughter. Okay. So let's go on.
Your message about working hard. That's how you get to the top, right?
Right. Amen.
All right, and Royalty, what do you love most about your daddy?
I'm going to skip past this because it drags out. But while I'm doing that, here's the point I wanted to make here. You said, well, if you just work hard, and if you have a person, just think about this. If you have a person who is racist, right? So now, because sometimes people play word games. Legal racism, right? The Jim Crow and slavery is outlawed. But if you have a person who is racist, and every single day throughout the day, you can uncover videos, news clips of people who are racist. Judges, teachers, hiring managers. Remember the Karen who tried to weaponize the cops on a black man who simply told her to put the leash back on her dog? Or how about the Starbucks worker who called the police on the two black men who were just simply waiting there? Right? Like everybody else do, they can wait there. They have a business meeting there. We literally can go on, right? The term Karen is literally means that. And you have to get into the police officer. But how about hiring managers? When people say, well, if you got a hiring manager who thinks or that is racist, he could find ways around not hiring you. So when he says that if you just work hard, that's just simply not true. You can work hard, but you still can find or run into racism. All right, let's see here. I'm going to just go up here. All right.
What inspired me? Okay, so to come out on social media.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have a brother in prison. I have a very good friend in prison doing 15 years right now. I have a brother that was murdered a few months back.
Wow.
And I have another brother that died from an overdose.
Oh, cool.
So I see what's going on in our communities, and I hate it. I hate it, and I know that most of them have been Democrat running for decades.
All right, let me stop there. So as tragic as this is, he's got a brother murdered, brother in jail. What does that have to do with CRT? What does that have to do with critical race theory? How does critical race theory figure in that? Right? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. His set of circumstances, though tragic, it actually has nothing to do with that.
I also hate that, and I want to wake people up to what's going on. So that's one of the biggest things that inspired me to get and come out.
What do we need
All right, so let me see.
to fix all of that, Kory, and come together as a country?
I think we need to understand our past, but I don't think we need to be held back by it. And I also think we need to start telling the truth about who did what in our past.
Now, I don't know what he means by that. See, I don't know what he means by that. I've heard rhetoric like this before. But I don't know if he means that, so it wouldn't be fair for me to try to correlate the two. And so again, what do we do? Now, again, how does critical race theory prevent that? He doesn't say. In other words, most of what he said had nothing to do with critical race theory. And that's the point I want to kind of leave with it. I want to stop it right here because look, most of the stuff that he said had nothing to do with critical race theory. And the reason why I say that, and the reason why I'm going to be doing further replies to people with their critical race theories, because that's just a snippet right here. That they're heaping stuff on there and blaming critical race theory for something that it doesn't say or doesn't stand for. In other words, as tragic as his kind of family life is, that's not a result of critical race theory. Actually, critical race theory would kind of help him to analyze and sense some of the systems of how some of his brothers and family members got to where they are. See, the idea here is, and I'm just going to say this, the real reason what's behind the pushback of critical race theory is a deflection from the actual racism that still plagues our nation. That's it. And I'm waiting for people to go point by point and say, this is how they're wrong. America is not like this. You know, you're talking about the oppressed and the oppressor, right? Well, how are black people have not been oppressed? How are they not oppressed now? And how is America not the oppressor? Anyway, look, all of that is, as I said, a deflection. That's basically what this pushback is. A deflection. They talk about the real issues of race. Alright guys, look, that's my perspective. Don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comments section below. All comments are welcome. Till next time, I'll see you then.